Hello, hi, welcome to all of you. Today we are going to discuss ethics in private and public relationships under chapter 1. Before discussing this topic, I will tell you that full notes of this lecture can be downloaded from the link that is given in the description below this video. Please download it and read the notes once after hearing this lecture. I am also trying to make videos of length less than 30 minutes. Every video shall be of duration less than 30 minutes only, so that all of you can go through the video very easily within very less time. And another thing I want to mention at the outset is that you have to create angles for writing answers for the theory part as well as for the case studies part. All the angles I have already told you in the previous lectures. Angles. What are those angles to write case study part as well as theoretical part? I have already mentioned you all these angles are very important. I have already given you certain angles like personal benefit versus societal benefit, long term versus short term, means versus ends, legal versus moral, and so on. Apart from those angles, you have your UPSC syllabus. That is, we have one acronym, that is SPEC-HIL: social, political, economical, cultural and historical, institutional, legal, etc. What is your paper 1? History, already we have mentioned here. Second is society, already we have mentioned here. Third is geography. What is paper 2? Polity, already we have mentioned here. Public administration and international relations. What is paper 3? Economy, we have already mentioned here. Next is science and tech and environment. Next is internal security. Paper 4 is your ethics. While writing answers, you have to think from all these angles to get points that will fetch you more and more marks. I have already told you that ethics paper is very easy paper. Preparation takes very less time and scoring is very easy. All you have to keep in your mind about these angles, and accordingly you have to write your answers, both part 1 as well as part 2, that is case study. Okay, that's it. And now we will go to the lecture, that is ethics in private and public relationships. Ethics in private relationships, that is at our homes, at our private spaces. They are defined by personal laws, religious laws. We have already seen the definition of ethics. What is ethics? Ethics are values and principles that guide individuals' actions, behaviors and choices. So in our private spaces, our values and principles are defined by us, defined by an individual, defined by family, defined by our community, defined by our religion. Whereas ethics in public relations, at our workplaces, at our offices, they are defined by Professional ethics, organizational ethics. For example, if you are a doctor, you have certain code of ethics that is prescribed by Medical Council of India. Or if you are an employee working in a Tata company, as we have already seen, Tata's code of conduct, code of ethics. So as a Tata employee, you are guided by your company's code of conduct. So accordingly, as per your set principles, your behavior and actions are internally controlled at your home, in your private spaces, whereas your behavior and actions are based on certain principles which are externally decided by your organization's management. So, ethics in public relations, under ethics in public relations, we are seeing that behavior and actions are externally controlled. What about the duties? In private relations, our duties are voluntary. It is self-imposed. For example, an individual has certain values. He is more interested in charity. So, he voluntarily donates money. Nobody tells him that you have to give certain amount of money to a particular organization or to a particular individual in donation. He doesn't need any command or he doesn't need any direction. Based on his value system, based on his principles, he is more inclined towards charity, so his duties are voluntary. Whereas ethics in public relations, under ethics in public relations, the duties are externally imposed and formally mentioned in codes, laws. So, if you are not doing your public duties properly, then what will happen? You will definitely be, if you are working in a corporate sector, maybe you might be fired. Or if you are in a government sector, or if you are in a public sector, maybe you will have to face certain disciplinary action. You may be asked to call for explanation, and so on. There is a close link between our private life and public life. They both are not different. We almost spend same amount of time in our workplaces as well as in our families. Our public life is almost linked to our private life. For example, if you take first point, that is, if you are disciplined in your private life, then you are also disciplined in your public life. How? For example, if you are not disciplined, maybe you are interested in a lavish lifestyle, but your income is less because the salary what you are getting from the government, it is less. Then what you are doing? You are taking loans. Then to repay the loans, you don't have enough money. Then what you will resort to? You will resort to taking bribes. So once you are taking bribes, you are putting your personal interest above public welfare. You will always think that you will always take such decision which will personally benefit you. It may not benefit the public. That is the reason that even our constitution also prescribes that if any individual is declared insolvent, that is bankrupt, then he will be automatically ineligible from various constitutional and statutory posts in India. And second point is very, very important. It is very, very important, especially from UPSC point of view, that is conflict of interest. And it is omnipotent. It is everywhere. Wherever the human being is there is conflict of interest. Conflict of interest arises when an individual's private interest and public duties clash. First, I have given you the definition. This definition is important while you are writing answers in the exam. So, you have to by heart this definition. But what is the concept of conflict of interest? When it arises? It arises when our private interest and public duties clash. Every individual has certain private interest, and at the same time he has to perform certain public duty. If you are working in the government, you are answerable to the public. If you are working in the corporate sector or private industry, you are answerable to your shareholders. Not only shareholders, these days you are also answerable to the stakeholders. Apart from your shareholders, there is also government, there is also civil society, there is also international organization. You have to be answerable to all the actors. There is also media. For example, if you are the government officer who is the part of the interview board, for the same interview your son has also applied. So how you can take the decision? Definitely your judgment will be clouded by your affection and concern towards his son, your son. Similarly, if you are the board member of a particular XYZ company, private company. In the board meeting, the private company is engaging a consultant, and you are also part of a certain consultancy company ABC. So definitely your judgment as part of the board member will be clouded by your personal affection or relation to that consultancy company, that is ABC. Everywhere there is conflict of interest. Yeah, as per the recent survey, conflict of interest, it has written that conflict of interest issues featuring politicians, civil servants, judges and corporate India is worrying. First case I have written it, maybe it may be the older case. There might have been a very recent cases. You can read from the current affairs and accordingly you can make the notes. The infamous case of Antrix Devas case. What is that case? How the conflict of interest here emerged. Antrix is a sister company of ISRO, space company. Devas is a private multimedia company. So Devas is a company which is established by former ISRO officials. Former means ex-ISRO officials plus Department of Telecom officials. So the people who had earlier worked in ISRO, after retirement, they have established this company. And the allegation is that ISRO has given the spectrum at very lesser prices, very less price to Devas. So resulting in loss to public exchequer. Why it happened? Only it happened that these former ISRO officials has links with their previous company, and they got the spectrum at very lesser prices. Everywhere the same problem persists. If you are a government official, what you are doing? There are consultancy companies. Most of the time government officials post retirement, they are establishing their own consultancy companies, or in some cases their sons and daughters are joining the consultancy companies, like the famous consultancies like KPMG, McKinsey. Similarly, post retirement jobs, and also they are joining post retirement, joining corporate industry, corporate sector. What is with politicians? Most of the politicians these days are businessmen. They have businesses, and they are trying to give tenders, contracts to those businesses where Their sons or daughters or their family, friends, relatives are working, are owning. What with the judiciary? Even judges are also getting post-retirement jobs. What about corporate companies? Board members. Board members and CEOs of corporate companies are also many times putting their personal benefits over public benefits, and they are taking many decisions in dark. They are not intimating even to their shareholders, and they are not intimating even to the government. So everywhere we are seeing the issues of conflict of interest. We are seeing there is always a clash between private interest and the individual's public duties. Don't think that the public duties only rest with the public servants. No. Even corporate sector also has public duty. Public duty means all the corporate companies are these days are listed companies and they have shareholders. So definitely they are answerable to their shareholders. And at the same time they are also answerable to the stakeholders. They are also answerable to the government. They are also answerable to the media, etc. Same is the case with judiciary. As I have already told you, many judges are these days, we are seeing them as governors. They are also seeking posts in tribunals, regulatory institutions. Similarly, departmental related standing committees of parliament. Who are the members? If it is a departmental related standing committee on health, who are the members? The MPs, the member of parliaments who are owning the hospitals, they are the members. So how their judgment can be impartial? They always take such a policy decisions which will help their businesses. That will be their first priority. They will think about their business first, and next they might think about public benefit. The irony is that even DRSC and Lokpal had Lalu and Amar Singh as members. That is the irony. Because both are tainted political leaders. They had corruption charges against them. They are facing trials in courts for corruption charges. And as you all know, scholarships, especially foreign scholarships, many of the times they are taken by politicians and bureaucrats' sons and daughters. Maybe their sons and daughters are more intelligent. But if you see from the public perspective, there are lot of students who need such scholarships more than politicians and bureaucrats' sons and daughters. They should get such scholarships. And examples are so many. You can write so many examples based on the newspaper headings, based on the news, based on the current affairs. You can add so many points, latest points. So, what needs to be done to prevent conflict of interest? What is the solution? As you all know, we have code of conduct for ministers as well as civil servants. We have code of conduct, but is it enforceable? Whether anybody is violating code of conduct, anything is being done to them? Nothing. If a minister is violating code of conduct, there are no disciplinary action against any minister. If any civil servant is violating code of conduct, no action. Most of the cases there is no action. Maybe one or two cases some action will be taken. India has code of conduct, but there is no enforceable. but it is not enforceable. Nobody is enforcing it. So we are saying that please make it enforceable. Please enforce it. Like Canada, like USA, where they are strictly enforcing code of conduct to prevent conflict of interest. USA and Canada's laws, they explicitly prohibit public officials from being involved in government decisions affecting their personal financial interests. India has also such laws, but there is nobody is enforcing. For example, for ministers, India's code of conduct clearly says that they should sever all connections with their businesses after assuming the charge of minister. But how many ministers are doing this? How we are enforcing it? If any minister violates that code of conduct, what action so far we have taken in this country? No, none. For civil servants, there should be cooling off period. Cooling off period means after retirement, for a certain time, they shall not join anywhere. They shall not join in governments, regulatory institutions or tribunals, or they shall not join in any corporate sector. They shall not establish any consultancy companies. Same for the judges also. Not only civil servants, but also for judges also. That will minimize conflict of interest to an extent. Similarly, officials or public servants, they shall not take part in those decisions which involve their family or relatives or friends. Judges have also to excuse themselves. Recuse means excuse themselves from the cases involving their relatives or friends. Public servants should clearly tell that there is a conflict of interest. There is a potential conflict of interest. So I will not be part of that decision taking committee or board. Second Administrative Reform Committee also made the same recommendation. There shall be code of conduct for ministers and it should be enforced actively by the Prime Minister Office or Chief Minister Office, as the case may be. For civil servants also, second ARC recommended code of ethics. And it should be included in the proposed Civil Services Bill. Second ARC recommendations are very old and most of the recommendations, they have not been implemented by the governments. For obvious reasons, as you all know. For the corporates also, same thing. Companies need to have also robust code of conduct. First, either whether it is a corporate company or whether it is a government. First, there should be code of conduct, there should be code of ethics, and at the same time, enforcing or implementing those code of conduct or code of ethics is also very, very important. If anybody violates, what action you are taking? If you are taking action, then others would fall in line. Others would mend their ways. If you are not taking action against anyone, nobody would mend his or her way. Here I have given you also one good case study. You can read it. It is very important case study. Such case studies you have to mention in your answers to get that extra 1 mark. That you can read it for yourselves. Okay. Next, we will see previous UPSC questions on conflict of interest. It is such an important topic that every year UPSC is asking the same question again and again. 2022, it has asked about write short notes on following in 30 words, that is conflict of interest. In 2018, what is meant by conflict of interest? I have already given you the definition. Illustrate with examples. I have already given you the examples. The difference between actual and potential conflict of interest. We say potential threat versus actual threat. What is that? What is potential threat? Potential threat means there is a threat that we can foresee. If you are not taking any action, then it will become actual threat. Similarly, there is potential conflict of interest which we are seeing everywhere. If you are not taking steps, Already we have discussed what steps we need to take to prevent conflict of interest, so that we can prevent conflict of interest. Otherwise, there would be conflict of interest. Again in 2017, same question, conflict of interest in the public sector arises when A. official duties, B. public interest, and C. personal interest are taking priority one above the above. Already we have discussed that conflict of interest arises when public duties and private interests clash. That is the same thing they are asking. How can the conflict in administration be resolved? I have already explained in the previous slide about how to prevent conflict of interest. What are the suggestions? Describe with an example. Examples also I have given you. Again in 2015, same question asked. Public servants are likely to confront the issues of conflict of interest. What do you understand by the term conflict of interest, and how does it manifest in the decision making by public servants? If faced with the conflict of interest situation, how would you resolve it? Explain with the help of examples. Same question asked, but asked in a different fashion, different type, same content, same examples, same answer, same definition. Everywhere you have to write as per the demand of the question. That's it. I will provide you model answers in the next lectures. But for now, you can write on your own. You can try these questions on your own. I have already explained you clearly what is conflict of interest. We have 3 more points. There is a close link between private and public life. We were discussing the second point, conflict of interest itself is a very big topic that I have given you the whole thing about conflict of interest under previous slides. That is very, very important from the UPSC point of view. The third point is, if you are respecting women at your private space, you respect women in your public space. Fourth and fifth points are interlinked. Like if you are having stress in your public life, then what you will do? If you are having stress, that will automatically reflect in your private space. You will have marital discord, or maybe personal issues with your wives, or maybe with your kids. Then you might resort to drinking or alcoholism. If you are alcoholic, then definitely it will also impact your public duties. Everything is linked. If you have problem in public life, it is reflecting in your private life. If you have a certain problem in private life, it will also reflect in your public life. So both have very close link. However, there are also certain inconsistencies. As you all know, we are all hypocrites. We preach certain good things, we preach ethical things in public life, but if the same thing comes in our private life, we don't accept. You see, there are so many examples coming up in newspapers. Even educated parents also, they teach in public spaces that intercaste marriages should happen, interreligious marriages should happen. But when it comes to at their homes, they don't accept their kids' marriage out of the religion. Interreligion marriage, they won't accept. Recently, we have seen the episode of UP MLA's daughter marrying Dalit. You can search in the internet to get the full story. So whatever thing we are preaching in public life, we are not doing the same in private life. At the same time, state intervention in private life. Private life is intrinsic to an individual. He lives his private life according to his own set of values and principles. Where they are coming from their upbringing, their community principles, their religious principles. But certain times, state is also interfering. Why state is interfering? Because most of the injustices are happening at homes. Maybe it may be domestic violence, or it may be sexual harassment on children. We have this POSCO Act to prevent that. We have Domestic Violence Act. We have Hindu Marriage Act, etc. State also intervenes in private lives to bring us justice. Last point is personal religion versus public duty. Sometimes our personal religion also creates problem in performing our public duty. For example, Muslims consider alcohol as sinful, but if a Muslim officer, IAS officer is there, if he is transferred to a excise department, liquor excise department, how he can function his duties? Same that if a devout Hindu IAS, if he is transferred to a fisheries department, how he can handle the department? How he can perform his public duties? These three are certain inconsistencies between our private life as well as our public life. That's it. Thank you all. If you have any doubts, you can feel free to mail me. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.